Hello, my name is Alicia, and I would like to tell you what happened to me when I bought my old house. I lived on rent until I married the father of my children, Rick, and we continued to live on rent, and our dream was to conquer our own house. We lived in the Brooklyn neighborhood, and that's where he and I were raised, and we grew up, we know. Rick had relatives who lived in the Bronx, and they said it was less violent than Brooklyn. Rick was working in a parking lot at night, and I worked at a beauty salon in Manhattan. I was worried about him at night on the street. Brooklyn is really a dangerous place, even more so at dawn, which was the time he returned home. I arrived early, as the salon closed at 5 p.m. It was when I found out I was pregnant with my first child. The months passed quickly, and my nights were distressed, because my husband arrived late, and sometimes I heard gunshots in the streets, and that left me in a panic. When I saw I was giving birth to my first child, my husband had found another job, and our life was more peaceful. He had managed to buy a taxi and was working in downtown New York. He now had more time than before and earned a little more money. Until one day, on his way home, his taxi was stolen in our neighborhood. That was a shock for us. Our son Richard, he was only 6 months old. So Rick's family referred us to a building in their neighborhood that they were renting. So we decided to rent a house in the Bronx, as rents were cheaper there too. The rent was for an apartment on the second and first floors of a 4-story residential building. There was plenty of space there. There was even a staircase for us to go up to the other floor of the building. It had a room for us and one for Richard, and it also had a living room and kitchen. I really liked the place right away. Everything was going well. My husband had gotten another car on insurance, and everything was moving along. Later in the first days of the house, my suffering began. The kitchen and living room were on the first floor of the building, and the 2 bedrooms were on the top floor, which was connected by a staircase inside the apartment. I woke up, it was 3 a.m., and I went to the kitchen to drink water. Richard and Rick were sleeping. When I stopped at the bottom of the stairs, it was dark and looking scary. I was afraid to go downstairs, but I was very tired and needed to go to the kitchen. It took me about 5 minutes looking at that dark staircase, and I plucked up the courage to go down. After all, I couldn't spend the night there. I took courage and started to go down the stairs. I had never realized that it could be so scary at night. When I was right in the middle of the stairs, I saw a child running from the living room to the kitchen in the middle of the darkness. It was a girl, and she was wearing white clothes. It went by very quickly, but I could see it. I came back running, and with a horrible feeling of persecution in my back. I woke up Rick and asked him to go downstairs with me. He then turned on the lights in the house, and there was nothing there. I drank water and went back to sleep. The other days were the same. I just didn't suffer anymore because the house had a bathroom on both floors, so I started taking water with me so I didn't have to go down there. By day the staircase was normal, but at night it was very sinister. My husband didn't think so and didn't really believe in me. He thought it was a silly fear, until one day he fell down the stairs at dawn. He hit his head and hurt his shoulder. He said he didn't trip, he was pushed. I found it very strange and told him that ladder was not normal. He didn't have anything to say, because there were only the 3 of us at home. One morning when I was alone with Richard at home, I left him in his room and went to make lunch. That's when he started crying, and I went running upstairs. When I reached the end of the stairs, I felt someone pulling me, and I fell from the last step. I broke my arm in that fall. Luckily at the time an Amazon delivery man knocked on my door and called for help and gave me help. I had broken my elbow. It was a bad fall. The pull was strong. After that, my husband fell too, and once I fell with Richard. Luckily we didn't get hurt, but I tripped out of nowhere. Until when Richard was 2 years old, I got pregnant again. We already had plans to move out of that house because of the strange things that were happening. I started seeing that girl running around the house more often at night and during the day too. My husband didn't see her, but my son Richard did. Once a drain fell and broke in the living room when Richard was watching cartoons. I went running to see, and he said it was the girl, not him. That left me with a lot of fear. For us, what made us leave the house was that I fell down the stairs, 7 months pregnant. I saw that girl, I got scared and fell. I felt a lot of pain because of my belly, but luckily my son Ricardo was not injured. There we decided to move. Rick had received a proposal to buy the house. We had money saved because I had gone back to work when Richard was 1 year old. We then went back in time on the business and went to live in Harlem in another area. Before leaving the Bronx, a neighbor in the neighborhood told me the story of that house. She said that many years ago, a family of 3 members lived there, the father, the mother, and a daughter who suffered from a disorder that made her very violent and aggressive. She said that nobody liked to visit them because of that girl, and that out of nowhere they received the news that he had died. She said that she had talked to the girl's mother, and she said that in the middle of the night the girl used to be wandering around the house, and then she fell down the stairs and broke her neck. Everyone was saddened by the news, and the parents soon left the house. The mother said before leaving that the girl still lived there as a spirit, that she continued with the same disturbances that she had in life, that they had to leave in a hurry, and that was it. I was shocked by that story. That lady also said that nobody stopped at that house and that we put up with too much. I told her the stories we lived there, and she said that everyone has lived something similar there. After we left, our second son Ricardo was born and our life went on peacefully. Plus that ladder and that girl put us through hell in that house. And that's today's story. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel. Thanks.